In your personal opinion, when should one send in their applications for pupillage, prior or post exams?
Like every lawyer's favorite quote, it depends. But again, it boils down to the question of when you'll be getting your results. Of course, you don't apply to a firm 3 months before your results or directly after your CLP exam or your PPTC exam straight away. Probably, I would say 1 month before your exams are out, provided that the firms want to offer or already is willing to offer you, then it should be okay. But it doesn't really hurt as well if you want to decide your options or to send in CVs and resumes after your results are out. But the good thing about getting your results, the good thing about sending your resumes early is you probably can secure your place earlier. The bad thing is whether you secure the place or not is a totally different question. It's based on what ifs. What if you pass? What if you don't pass? Some firms don't like certain uncertainties. So to answer your question, it really doesn't really matter that much. What matters is how well you do in your exams, how many firms that you've worked with, what's your past working experience, if any, what are your strongest traits. Are you good in advocacy? Are you good in client management? Are you interested to do criminal law? Is it your passion? Those are the questions more important to consider, in my opinion.
I think there's no hard and fast rule, but send in when you think you are ready. Don't feel like you're pressured to send in as soon as possible, because I think you really have to look for a firm that you believe in, because this 9 months is going to be very critical, right? So you have to look for an employer, a master who's willing to take you and teach you, not so much about whether you can secure pupillage as soon as possible, but you have to be comfortable with the firm's culture, and you have to be convinced that you are able to grow in these 9 months at the firm. So at the end of the day, send in when you think it's ready. When you think you are ready to take the next step. For me personally, I didn't even care about pre or post exams. I took the time to go and try to understand the firm's culture, the people there. I think that will help you make a better decision more than just submitting a traditional application. So that would be my take on it.
Then now our next question is, in your opinion, would it be much more beneficial and practical to have it done in a large firm or boutique size firm?
Again, it depends, because there's no one answer that can fit all sizes here. It really depends on what you want in life. So to answer your question, it really depends. There are pros and cons with the big firms, and also pros and cons in the small and medium-sized firms. Big firms, of course, it comes with a lot of reputation, a lot of fame, if you want to put it that way. You can go around telling people, hey, I'm from this big firm. Everyone would have heard about it. Everyone would probably be impressed with you, and you would probably be exposed to more high-profile cases. But that being said, you are probably not the main contributor in that case. You're probably just shadowing your master. You probably just do simple research for that case. As opposed to smaller or medium-sized firms, you will be more hands-on. You will probably be handling some of the bigger, harder research. You will probably work closer with the solicitors or the counsel. So you get more hands-on experience, you get more confidence. So that would be the pros of doing it in a small-sized firms. Not to say that big firms don't do that, but the tendency of you learning in a small-sized firm is probably bigger, at least in my opinion. I couldn't say much about big firms as well, because I've never been to a big firm, so that comes with a caveat though. Yeah.
Okay, I think this will come down to what sort of experience you'll be looking for. At a large firm, my perception of large firms is that you're part of a big machine, so you have to the experience will be different, obviously, from a mid-sized and small-sized firm. This is a very common stereotype, and also I think borderline misconception, because I started off in a mid-sized firm, and I get to taste the best of both worlds. You know, corporate, not corporate, but big-sized firms. You learn about management. I got to learn that in this mid-sized firm as well. I got to touch on very real issues as well. I got to handle my own clients and files. So I think if you really want to look for an all-rounder experience, go for a mid-sized firm. Small-sized firms usually are very similar to mid-size, but I think at the end of the day, if you really want to get the most out of pupillage, it comes down to your master. But as starters, right, I'll recommend trying at mid-size and small-sized firms. So yeah.
In your personal opinion, would it be better to have a master who is widely known in the legal sphere, or would it be someone who you simply look up to?
Isn't it the same route?
Let's say, because as I said, maybe the master is someone as a dato, and whereas your normal person maybe just a Mr.
I see. Okay. So to answer your question, I think the answer to me is very simple. I would go to someone that I personally look up to, simply because the person that I look up to would possess the characteristics that I want to be. I want to be like him, you know. If you focus your aim on lawyers or people that are famous, you probably don't want to be like him, you know. People will probably be impressed with his work, but you probably don't look up to him because you don't match. You know, that's bad.
Oh, that's the saying of like, don't meet your heroes.
Yes, don't meet your heroes. No, not don't meet your heroes. It's just that, okay, sorry. How to answer that question? You know, coming. Put it this way. Captain America. Everyone likes Captain America. Presumably, everyone likes Captain America. But you actually like Batman. Do you want to be like Batman, or you want to be Captain America? Batman. So to answer your question, personally, I would look to or turn to people that I want to become. We always want to amalgate or morph into some people that we want to be like. For me, I want to be like my former master. I want to drive BMW. You know, I want to go to court with people respecting me, you know, looking up to me. But also at the same time, without any bad reputation or bad stories. So that's how my master is. He's a very humble guy without any negative reputation, living a simple life. So I wanted to become like him also.
Definitely someone you look up to, because you have to understand that when you want to shadow someone, you are going to be somewhat copying and taking away some of their skills, for yourself. So going for someone famous, right? But if there's no chemistry, if there's no guidance, no encouragement, right? You're not going to be able to get as much as you want out of your pupillage experience. So go for someone who you think will be able to teach you and you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Moving on to our next question.
Yeah.
In your opinion, from your experience of having a master you look up to, what do you think what makes a good master then?
I sound like a broken record by now, but what makes a good master or not depends on the individual or the pupil itself, especially what do they want from their master. Do they want someone who will guide them, or do they want someone who takes them to court and shows them the ropes in big cases? But to me personally, what makes a good master is the master first must be willing to guide you. The master must not spoon feed you. But most importantly is, the master is humble and it's not egoistic. The master is someone that you can work with in the long run, even post-pupillage or pre-pupillage. So to me, that's the most important trait of a master.
What makes a good master? It's very hard to categorize or even put it into words. As long as you feel like this is someone you can learn from, someone that you believe that will teach you, that's good enough already. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, I want to be under this managing partner. It doesn't happen all the time, right? So it goes back to my second point. Find a master who you think you're comfortable with, and you think that you can learn a lot from him or her. That's enough already. So don't overthink the whole process. Yeah.
Moving on to our last and final question. Oh wait, it's not. It's the second last.
Okay.
In your opinion, is there a presence of discrimination for qualifications, be it CRP, PPTC, or the degree you obtain?
Unfortunately, to answer that question, Kerming, I wouldn't say there's discrimination per se, but I would say there's real preference over the other, and different firms tend to have different preference. Some firms, or most firms, tend to prefer BPTC students for the very same reason I stated in the last video, where they tend to have better advocacy skills. They are exposed to more hands-on experience as compared to CLP studies. So yes, there is some kind of preference. Doesn't really matter. Don't feel disheartened. It's just that it's an exercise of finding your compatibility with each firm. Some firms prefer students from UIA. Some firms prefer UM students because generally they are brilliant students with, well-equipped Malaysian law. So it really depends. There's no discrimination. It's just that some firms prefer to have some over the other, one over the other.
This one is a bit hard for me to comment because I'm not an employer, but I do hear some firms, they prefer BPTC qualifications graduates more than CRP for some reason. But I don't necessarily agree because both graduates from both programs have their own advantages and disadvantages, strengths and weaknesses. So I think discrimination, I wouldn't really call it discrimination either. It's more like the firm's direction. So yeah, it's a bit hard for me to comment on this, honestly.
From there, I guess we'll go on to our last and final question then. Do you have any advice you generally want to give for law students or pupils-to-be finding pupillage?
Okay, I'm giving this advice post-MCO. Everyone is recovering right now. It's post-MCO right now. The problem is, it's not easy to get a pupillage spot nowadays. It's also not easy to become a lawyer nowadays. The competition is very hard. So to stand above the crowd, my only advice is try to make yourself more indispensable. Try to do something that the other lawyers can offer. Maybe you can offer better research, or maybe you can offer better qualification, maybe you can offer better work experience, or maybe you can show a very good attitude, a proactive attitude, because there are more passive lawyers than active lawyers. At least you will only be competing with a smaller pool of active lawyers. So keep yourself updated in the law, keep improving yourself. Learning never stops, unfortunately. I'm still learning myself. I still get scolded with judges or my bosses every now and then. But the most important thing is I'm still learning. And I love to learn.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay. So please don't get disheartened if you ever get rejected by a firm. There's always blessing in disguise. Opportunity waiting for you elsewhere.
Alright, thank you so much for joining our interview.
Thank you so much for having me as well.
Like I said, just don't rush into it. Keep an open mind, and always don't give up. Like when it comes to failure, don't take it as a permanent experience. It's something that you have to pick up and learn from. You have to keep moving, right? So 3 things: keep an open mind. Don't ever give up because of failure, and also don't rush into it. Yep. Thanks for having me.